best, put a natural feeding to the test. From Scotland's Highlands to the coast of Dover, we are the raw feeders of Great Britain, yeah!
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Raw Feeders of Great Britain podcast. Can you just quickly introduce yourself and why you've come on the podcast today?
Hi there, I am Lara McCulloch from Karnlea, or Karnlea as some people call it. That's absolutely fine. And I have been invited on today, which is lovely, to talk about supplements and bone broth.
Wicked. And do you know what? You've kindly sent me some of yours already in advance, which is great. So I've got them to hand. And I'm blown away by how many there is. And I've noticed that there is some different ones. But it's not just bone broth, is it? Because as you know, I'm the type of person that does like to get by on the cheap where I can, and I do make my own. But I know, hands on my heart, it does not match the quality of something that's been made commercially and they specialise in it. Because mine differs from time to time, and I don't know how to get the impurities out and things like that. As with yourselves and your products, it's already taken care of. It's far superior, is what I'm trying to say, than anybody that's making their own. And I'm speaking from experience because mine differs all the time with consistency and things like that. Now, one thing that I noticed as well is, like I said, you've got in loads of different flavours. So we've got a chicken one, we've got a lamb, we've got a fish one. That's different. That's unique.
Yeah.
A venison one again. So you got two more novel lines.
Yeah.
And obviously the beef one. Now I've noticed the fish one as well. It's cod and haddock from what I'm reading on the back.
It is.
Which is great. So yeah, so you got two novel protein lines there, which are great for dogs that have got sensitivities. So it's like a whole of market range so far because you cater to everyone regardless of their situation. But what makes your bone broth different to all the others?
Well, for one, I guess we do have an ambient bone broth, and it's a liquid ambient bone broth. So before we had come along, I guess there was mostly just frozen bone broth on the market. We launched it just at the end of 2021 and 2022. And the reason we wanted our broth in the format that it was we wanted something that was processed as little as possible, but didn't take up that valuable freezer space that always people are, raw feeders, fresh feeders are searching for. And also for the pet shops as well, freezer space is an absolute premium, and trying to fit bone broth in there as well as all of the food, etc., is tricky. So we wanted an ambient product, but we wanted something natural. So we had to find something unique in its packaging that we could maintain that without having any preservatives, additives, or, anything nasty really that people didn't want. So we basically have this bone broth that is 3 ingredients: bones, water, and apple cider vinegar. And the reason that it can be ambient is because of the way it's packed. So it is, I suppose the name that everybody recognizes is Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is actually just a brand name, but aseptic packaging, which lends itself beautifully to bone broth, because really what happens with aseptic packaging is you are putting a sterilized product, so a product that has had a kill step. So in this case, our broth gets simmered in a kettle, and at the very end of the cook, they raise the temperature for 30 to 40 seconds. And that's what they call the kill step, which all fresh food has somewhere or another in its production line. And then it's immediately strained, and it is put into sterilized packaging, which is sterilized by light, in a sterilized environment, which is the packing hall, which is next door to the cooking hall, basically, in our factory that we make it in Norway. So really what we wanted was something that was as good quality, if not better, than any human broth that was on the market at the time. So we found a factory that produced human broth for high-end food service, things like that. And we negotiated with them, spoke to them, and developed a recipe with them that still held the collagen levels that we would want, but didn't have any salt, pepper, vegetables, any of those things that you would find in human broth. So really, I guess, to answer your question, our product is as good as it is because they are making it to that standard. They're a human factory, which means they can't suddenly go down, using really nasty things that we wouldn't put in
Yeah.
normal human food. So everything is created to the same standard. So our broths will match anything on the human market by way of analysis. Our wild venison broth, which is our newest variety, when we did the outside lab testing of that, the collagen came back off the charts, higher than anything that we've seen on the human or the pet market in the UK and actually in America as well. So we were delighted with that. But that's what makes our broth such good quality. These people that we co-manufacture with, that make the broth for us, they only make
Yeah.
for us. When it comes to pet, they don't make for anybody else. They only make for us. We have that contract with them, and that's all tied down. But we are constantly looking for ways. We're constantly saying, "Oh, do you think we could raise the collagen on this a little bit?" And they've done this over the years for us. They've experimented with cutting the bones in different ways, with cooking times, with all of these things, but they only make bone broth. That's pretty much it. Bone broth, or anything that comes off bone broth, like a concentrate, or they would make maybe for other people in the sort of the human market, they might make a ramen broth or things like that. But everything that they do is broth related. So therefore they are truly the experts at this. They don't make a whole array of different products. They only make broth. So they are the experts. And the way that we make it, we can monitor it right through the cook. So we can keep all of our batches, whilst they're natural, so there are always going to be variances, we still can keep them to that really high quality, because everything is so closely watched. It is digitally analyzed throughout the cook. And really we haven't found anything that can match it in quality.
Absolutely fantastic. Do you know what? You said something there that's quite important to get out there as well, because as you know, there's the way the market is. There's a lot of white label products around, isn't there? And
Yes. Yeah.
you don't know if it's all coming from the same factory and things like that. But at least you can hand on your heart and say, no, this is just for us. It's an exclusive line, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, from that manufacturer.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's a rarity. So people, to be fair, with that in mind, it's not even that expensive.
No, and I mean, I think the thing is, Mike, where people get a little bit confused is what white label actually is in comparison to what contract manufacturer is. So white label, for anybody listening, is basically where people have made a factory, for example, has said, "Oh, I'm going to white label whatever product it is, take, for example, I suppose green lip mussel powder or something, and maybe they've white
Yeah,
labeled it. So they have pouches and pouches and pouches and pouches with no label sitting. And those pouches are just waiting for somebody to come along and go, give me 2,000 of those and put this label on it. And somebody else will come along the next day and give me 300 of those and put that label on it. And it's all identical, but it's all being sold out at different prices with different claims, with different names, but it all came from the same batch that was sitting somewhere in a
yeah, yeah.
factory. When you contract manufacture, it's different because you are asking somebody who is an expert in this field. Because let me tell you, I mean, I know a lot about bone broth, but bone broth is a dark art to make properly. And honestly, if you said to me, go and set up a factory to make bone broth tomorrow, I couldn't do it as well as these guys do, because this is their whole thing. This is what they do. This is what they've always done. They've had, machinery designed specifically for them and their needs only, so they are the experts. I would never be able to make it as well as they do. And I also don't have X amount of million to set up an aseptic packaging line either. But, contract manufacture is different in the sense where you would then go to a manufacturer and say, I know you make excellent products. Here's what I want. Okay, I need you to make this specific thing for me to my recipe. That's contract manufacture. So, it's different in that way, and even we'll get into it maybe later. We have a pumpkin powder, for example, and if you go onto Amazon, you'll see 34 pumpkin powders.
Yeah.
Ours is not white labeled because ours is specifically sourced for us. So my
Yeah.
manufacturer went out to the farm where we get our pumpkin. He has seen the welfare of the people working there. He has met the people who grow that. He's seen the pumpkins growing. It's not white labeled Chinese pumpkin powder that came in cheapy cheap from China somewhere
Yeah.
saying organic, but it's not. These sort of things. So even there, you can have a product that looks simple and looks like it might be white labeled, but it may well not be, or it may well be. And again, they're sitting with 50, products absolutely identical sitting there. And, it's just one of these things. I think it's important for people to actually understand what they're looking at. And also things like, you could buy, for example, a pallet of pumpkin powder from China, ship it over here, bag it up over here in your garden shed or with some small kind of contract packer, and then slap a label on it saying product of the UK, or UK product, because it was packed here. And that is
Yeah.
where things become not so transparent, because we don't grow enough pumpkins to make pumpkin powder. Pumpkin powder doesn't
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
UK, if you think about it logically. But again, it's one of these things where it's really important for people to know what they're looking at on labels and to see that a company is transparent in what they're saying.
Yeah, and that's to be honest, that's exactly what I'd say you are. It's transparent, and it's refreshing to have to get somebody that is that transparent. Because what you see is what you get, and in terms of the labeling, the design, it's all it's clear. There's nothing confusing. It's all easy to read, and even the social handles are on there as well, so people can contact you directly if they want to. You've made that very, very easy. Um, and you've even got on here, you've been transparent of the CFU per point as well, per pot, and not many people do that either. They don't
Yeah,
disclose that information.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, the bottom line is not everybody, who's out in the market looking for bone broth is my customer. Maybe by budget, maybe they just don't like our brand labels for some reason. Maybe it's something else. Not everybody is always going to be your customer. So I think it's actually your duty to give people that right to not be your customer, so that you actually
Yeah,
put everything on your pack, and then people can make up their own mind and see for themselves what they want to do, with regard to what they buy.
no, exactly. And I think there's a famous saying, isn't there? If you market to everyone, you're marketing to no one.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
very, very wise and very true.
because like I said, I personally, knowing what you just told me now, I presume these be much more expensive than what they are. So, considering the processing, I think it's really cheap for what you get, if that makes sense.
It's funny, Mike,
Personally,
because it is funny because you do get it's it's one of these things you come up occasionally and people go, why would you ever buy that when you can make your own? I can make 2 liters of this for £3. And do you know what? We have a recipe for bone broth on our website. We will actively encourage people to make their own. And listen, 100%, I applaud people who have the time and energy to do that. I'm just not one of them. And also the smell around the house, I can't cope with. And I used to, it's it's no secret, our origin story is I've always made broth. I've always, if I was cooking a Sunday roast, I would always use the bones and make broth for the dogs and whatnot, or I would occasionally get things from the butchers and just make it from scratch. And I hated it. I absolutely loathed it. I always kind of compare it to the thing, when COVID happened and we all decided we'd make sourdough bread, and it was great fun for the first couple of times. And then you were like, no, I'd rather just pay my local artisan baker a
Yeah, yeah,
fiver, or go to Marky's or whatever for it. But it's sort of similar, I think a lot of people maybe, particularly in the higher end sort of raw feeding market, I think a lot of people do a bit of both. So if they're in the position and they've got a lot of bones kicking about, or, they've got a pack of lamb bones in the freezer and they're like, oh, the dog's getting a bit old. These are a bit too much. I'll just make broth out of them. Absolutely. Look, people do a combination, and that's absolutely fine. But what we tend to find with ours is even the higher sort of even the people that are really rigid about it and are very much make my own, they usually will have maybe a pack or two sitting in a cupboard somewhere for emergencies, because the fact, as you said earlier, it can sit on shelf. It doesn't need to be frozen. The fact that you can have it in your cupboard and it has such a good shelf date on it, it's always really handy to have. And the number of people that then say, God, I needed this short notice. My dog took a little bit ill. I wanted to kind of just give them bone broth for a day and nothing else. Couldn't find mine. It was at the bottom of the freezer somewhere, or blah, blah, blah. Just opened yours. So you know what? Yeah, 100%. We do believe that we can make it better than people can make it at home, for a number of reasons, including histamines and things like that. But I applaud anybody that does make their own, but that there is room for a sort of a bit of a blend of things where, you do a bit of both. You maybe buy one because you can't be bothered one week, and then you make one, and then that does you 3 weeks. So, we do have, even those people that are hardcore and constantly make their own, we do find that they still will buy off us. And the nice thing about ours is, although it looks like a small pack, it is so concentrated, and compared to anything else that's out there, you need less. So, you put our beef or lamb or venison broth in the fridge and they will go jelly. They will just go pure jelly. So, you can dilute that down a little bit if you want. You can feed it as is. But it is good value at the end of the day.
yeah, definitely. And obviously, I don't want to um like exclude people, because obviously with this being the Raw Foods of Great Britain, we promote obviously fresh foods and things like that. But it also works with for people feeding kibble as well. They can put it into the bowl.
100%. Absolutely. As a company, when we launched, we obviously sat very much in the raw side of the market. I guess back then, back in sort of 2021, broth wasn't as well known as a product, like any of these things, and it's become much more mainstream since then. So our mission from square one has been to actually bring broth to the masses. So, we don't set ourselves fully in the raw sector. We want everybody to be able to benefit. We believe that we can help everybody build a better bowl. And I do think that a lot of people who maybe were very anti-raw are willing to try cooked food or a combination of foods. And that's the first
Yeah,
step on the ladder, and everybody has to start somewhere. And people also have their limits as to where they want to go to, because, you can turn somebody off by saying to them, oh, you're doing everything wrong and you're killing your dog. You should be feeding raw,
yeah,
or your
yeah,
dog. That person may have personal reasons why they don't want to feed raw food, or why they want to feed a combination of kibble and raw, or kibble and cooked, or cooked and raw, or whatever. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm only here to help people build that better bowl,
yeah.
And I do think it's super important to invite kibble feeders into this conversation about building a better bowl, because they're the people that really kind of will benefit from it. in a massive way.
100%.
You know, and as I say, it's the first step on the ladder. They may go further. They may see brilliant gains and go, oh, gosh, you know, I want to go full cooked, or I want to go full raw. Brilliant. Or they may go, this suits me. This suits my dog. This is what I want to do. And that's my limit. And that's absolutely okay too.
Exactly that. And that's why I wanted to touch on that in case people was watching and thinking it's just for the fresh food side of things, but it's not. And if anything, I'd say it's more beneficial for people that are feeding dry foods and things like that, because a lot of dogs are dehydrated, in my opinion, especially on a dry food diet, because they have to compensate by drinking the water. And most owners, they'll fill up a water bowl. So most of them, I think they cap out at 2 litres, and they'll fill it once a day. But if you've got a 40-kilo dog, that 2 litres isn't going to be enough, because it's 60 ml of water per day.
Yeah.
Sorry, 60 ml of water per kilo of body weight per day. Now, if you're adding in the bone broth into the dry food as well, that helps. That helps get more moisture into the diet, which is a massive win, in my opinion. And yeah, you can definitely help navigate that. And it's just they're just fantastic products all around, because I find this much easier than making my own, because one, like you say, you do get the smell, and it's the time it takes as well. And sometimes I've done it, and then I've fallen asleep, and I've left my hob on overnight, and I've woke up in the morning, and I've got glue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got glue, and then I've got to throw the pan away because I can't clean it because it's that hard. Because I think a lot of people forget that as well, is to do, like I said, the glue factory is where they boil down bones to get the collagen, because it's an adhesive. Yeah. And if you do it too much, you're going to get glue. And I found that out the hard way, and I'd rather buy products like these myself. But yeah, I'll always give it a go when I'm bored, and I'll just never do it at night anymore, because I know what I'm like. I'll fall asleep.
Or you're like me and you cook it for your allotted time, and you go and you're so tired, you get up in the morning in your slow cooker and you accidentally tip all your broth down the sink and keep your bones because you're on autopilot for when you're cooking pasta or something. I've done that before. I know quite a few people who have actually done that one as well. Just not very happy after that. But yeah, it's just you know, convenience is a wonderful thing for people. Like, you know, it's amazing the difference you can make to people and what they're feeding by giving them a level of convenience.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, convenience sells at the end of the day. That's pretty much what the pet food industry is based on: convenience, to make our lives easier.
Exactly.
And yeah, but this is convenience, but in a good way. There's no trade-off. It's a benefit. Yeah, it's a benefit, not a trade-off, which is excellent. Now that's the broths themselves. Now I've noticed here, like I said, there's like, so you mentioned the pumpkin powder before.
Yes.
But I've also noticed there's a pumpkin and spice.
Yes.
What's the difference? And don't say one's just spicy.
So basically, well, pumpkin and spice is obviously a bit of a play on the famous pumpkin spice latte that everybody goes mad for at that time of year, which is just, in my opinion, absolutely delicious, and the smell is just wonderful. And I particularly love all of those warming spices and the smell of them myself. So, I had the idea when we had launched our pumpkin powder, and we were one of the first actually in the UK to launch pumpkin powder. And as I said, ours is Spanish, and we source it particularly from this grower. But we wanted to do something a little bit sort of, it just leveled up a little bit more as well, to give people a little bit of variety, and to obviously add other benefits too. So it was a bit of a play, as I say, on the pumpkin spice latte. But what we did was we just simply added a few spices into the pumpkin powder. So we added ginger, Ceylon cinnamon, and fennel. So all really good gut healthy spices and soothing spices as well, because a lot of the time what we were finding was people will feed pumpkin powder when their dog has maybe got an upset stomach or something has happened, in that sense. So, you want to build the gut back up because the gut's taken a bit of a hammering, and you want a nice soothing sort of selection in there too. And ginger, obviously, as we know, ginger and fennel are amazing for soothing the gut, and there's antimicrobial sort of properties in there as well with the cinnamon and whatnot. So yeah, we wanted just something that was a little bit different, that would give people a little bit of variety, and that actually, I'll be honest, from a marketing perspective, was a little bit of a call to action maybe to people who hadn't seen pumpkin powder or didn't fancy pumpkin powder before.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge amount of humanization in the pet industry and within pet treats, pet foods, etc. So we kind of did a little bit of a play on that, and that's just being completely honest. Where we thought, that could tempt a few people in, because they're sort of able to, make a little pumpkin spice latte with our goat milk, which is quite popular in shops. They'll do that, in the summer. Sometimes they'll do that. They'll make up some goat milk for people coming in just to sample it, and they'll put a little sprinkling of pumpkin spice on top or whatever. So yeah, we just wanted a variation on pumpkin that would elevate it slightly.
Do you know what it's actually reminded me of though is, you see, like I said, the world's like humanizing the pets, and you see like the puppuccinos and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That'd be excellent. Bit of
yeah,
broth, bit of that. You got
yeah,
your own puppuccino.
yeah. Well,
But
to be yeah,
I
we
am
were
right in saying you can mix the
Well,
products, yeah.
absolutely.
So
Everything
yeah,
can mix with everything. So it's actually quite common that people, if they want to make the pumpkin back into a puree, we say, look, you can use water or you can use broth. It's up to you what you use. But technically, all of our cat and dog products, you could put every single one of them. Now, you do not want to do this, everybody, because let's not have a dusty bowl. But technically, you could happily put every single one of those products in a bowl together, and nothing would react badly against anything else. You're not going to have any problems there. I just want to reiterate, you don't want to do that.
yeah,
That's just too many
yeah, yeah,
times.
yeah.
But it is sort of technically able to do. So again, making it easy for people, making it convenient. People don't have to think too much. They don't have to worry about this interacting with this or that interacting with the other. They can just kind of use the products sort of as they want, whether that's every day, every other day, twice a week, only when they need it. It's very bespoke, so you can kind of just mix and match in and use to what your personal needs for your pet are.
And with it being, like I said, based on the weather we've just had, this summer's going to be awful, I think, especially for the dogs.
Mm.
Can these be tipped
Yep.
into like little ice lollies? Yeah, because
Absolutely.
that'd be
So
cool. A much easier way to
yeah,
keep dog cool.
absolutely. Gosh, I mean, last year, I think the number of people that were sending us photos of lollies that they'd made and things like that just to cool their dog down. Yeah, absolutely. So, firstly, our product, our broth, once you take it out of the cupboard, open it, it then becomes that fresh product again that was packed. So you need to then keep it in the fridge afterwards. So we generally say, look, 5 days-ish is probably how much you're good for. Now, if you've got a Jack Russell Terrier, one of those packs could take you 20 days to get through at the right dose. So like anything else that you open that's fresh, if you're not going to use it in time, pop it into the freezer. So we would say to people, it's always easier to use the silicone ice trays. They're just a godsend when it comes to actually popping the ice cube out. But just pop it in an ice cube tray and pop it in the freezer, and it takes up very little space in your freezer at that point, But yes, 100%. People go absolutely nuts. They make layered lollies with, they make the goat milk up, and then they'll layer that, and then they'll layer a broth over the top of it and put blueberries in it, or they'll make a nice lolly with one of those, those natural sticks that you get off JR or one of these
Yeah,
companies. You know, or a fish skin stick, they'll put that in as a handle for the
Yeah.
lolly. And yeah, God, we saw unicorn lollies and flipping dinosaur lollies and everything last year, and all weird and wonderful things. Or people will even put their supplements into the broth and freeze it in a lolly form. So that's the kind of novel side of it, I guess, but it actually serves a really important purpose. As you rightly say, you know, we are experiencing at times really super hot weather at the moment, and we're not built for it in this country. We don't all have AC the way they do in America, etc. And I mean, we were out at Global there, Mike, and gosh, you know, we were walking around Orlando and scorching heat, and there was people out with their golden retrievers, and we were like, oh my goodness, that's awful. But they're so used to it and they're built for the heat. We're just not over here, do you know? We're just not built for it. So it's super important to keep your dog hydrated and your cat hydrated over these sort of really hot periods. And again, even if it's as simple as just a small bowl of water and pop an ice cube of bone broth in there to cool it down and, you know, hydrate the dog really, really well. You know, it's really important to remember to do it, but there's lots of nice ways to kind of do this. And I'm personally not a fan of things that get added to water and left in a water bowl. I don't like things like that. So I always say to people,
Yeah.
if you're going to do that, just give them a little small bowl. So, you know, don't you know, as you were
Yeah.
saying earlier, people fill their bowls once a day. Don't put your ice cubes in there. Your dog's not going to get the benefit out of it and drink all of that. You know, give your dog a smaller bowl of water, you know, and change that bowl of water every couple of hours or whatever. But yeah, absolutely, stick a bit of bone broth in there. It's definitely going to encourage them to drink and hydrate up. And you can dilute our broth down. As I said earlier, it's so strong. You can dilute it down into that water to get even more hydration into them.
Well, that's brilliant. That's one benefit as well I've noticed, because some bone broths that are on the market, they're pre-diluted as well. And that's another thing I've
Okay.
noticed. They're already ready to go, diluted.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't the same thing as you've like got a concentrate here that you can dilute yourself.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, we say, for example, you're spending £2 for 200 ml of a diluted broth. If you add in those up, it's cost you way more than this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I can't speak for what anybody else does or whether they dilute or not, but I know certainly if you go to things like if you go to the United States, you'll see more liquid bone broths that are ambient on the market than we have here. But actually a lot of them are what they refer to in the States as a hot fill. So that basically means it's a bit like, you know, when they do the cooked food and that the food is actually cooked in the packaging. It's something similar. So a lot of those broths that they have are maybe bone broth powder that has been re-diluted up, other bits and pieces potentially added to it and then packed. So that's actually very different from what we do, because we actually, as I said earlier, cook the broth. So it is actual broth in its raw form going into our packaging. It's not a pre-made mix that's being packaged as a liquid, if that makes sense, because the two do exist. But ours is not. That's not. The quality of that's not the same. The amino acid complex in it is not the same. You know, so it's very hard for people to navigate this, I think, out in the market. But yes, 100%. Ours is an actual cooked broth that has been cooked, drained, and packaged. So that is different. And you actually can see that in the analysis as well. Best thing that we always say to do for people is we're like, go and look at the back of the pack, look at the analysis and see what the analysis says. So you want to see that the collagen has in fact been measured. You want to see that the collagen is, so say for example, if you saw a beef broth, a lamb broth, and like say you took our beef, our lamb, and our venison broth, and you looked at the back of those packs, and the collagen level was exactly the same for beef, lamb, and venison. that's a problem, because there's no way on this earth that those would have come out the same in testing. They don't run the same. They are different animals. They will produce different collagen amounts. So, it's little things like that. It's saying, can you tell us how much collagen's in there? It's no good telling us that it's collagen rich. And what is collagen rich anyway? Is collagen rich, 0.9 of a gram of collagen per 100 mils? Is collagen rich what we have, which is 3.8 grams per 100 mils? That's all very relative stuff. And I think, again, coming back to transparency, that's where it's really important that you do label everything properly, legally. The VMD aren't going to come at you for false claims or anything like that. But generally, just look at the back of the packaging, and that will tell you a lot of what you need to know.
Yeah, definitely. And I touched on this a few weeks ago, that I think the word like collagen itself has become a bit of a marketing buzzword. And
Absolutely.
people are buying it just because it's on the product, and there's no in-depth reading into it, like what type of collagen's in it. Obviously, the most common is 1 to 5. They all serve different functions within the body. But if they're,
Absolutely.
for example, they're looking to support joints with collagen,
Mm.
and they're given the wrong type, they're going to notice, oh, the fur's improving, but the joints are still buggered. And that's why people aren't digging deep enough into it and just seeing that collagen and running with it, and that's it. So I think, yeah, the fact that you also don't lean heavy on that word either, from what I can see
No,
here. I don't
it's a
see
big focus.
collagen, a big writing
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. And our collagen is a big focus for us. Like, as I said earlier, we're constantly saying to the factory, what if we do this? What if we do that? Do you think you could get another point something of a, gram in if we do this? And they play ball with us very, very well on that, and I think since we started back in 2021, we landed our first broths, I think in September 2021. And from then, we've actually managed to get the collagen count. Our collagen count was really heavy on our beef, which we launched with. With the beef, we've actually managed to get that product 10% up in collagen since then. So just by working with the factory and constantly trying to, improve where we can in those tiny little bits, we've been able to actually drag that up by 10%. And again, I think, for people to understand exactly what you've said there, Mike, different types of collagen do different things. So you're never going to get the same level of collagen on chicken broth than you're going to get on beef broth, for example. Um, chicken is a totally different thing. Our chicken broth doesn't gel in the fridge. If you do it at home with all the fat and everything coming out and the skin and all of these sort of things, and maybe a pig's trotter in there, it'll gel for you. But when you make commercially, because we are a human grade factory, again, they are not going to be using certain parts of the chicken because everything's too human grade. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was one that we were always like, let's get this as high as we can. And we do have a really good level now, on our chicken broth, but chicken's never going to read the same as beef or venison. It's just not. But chicken is a different type of collagen as well. So that's part of the reason too. So there's quite a lot of understanding, and people could go right down rabbit holes. But, ultimately, we would always say, if people say, which is the best one for me to give? We would always say, what are you giving it for? Just general good health? Are you giving it for joints? Are you giving it for skin? What are you giving it for? And my team are out doing a lot of the sort of dog festivals around the UK at the moment. I mean, I'm in Northern Ireland, as you can probably hear from the accent, but I've got a team in GB who very kindly do all of these shows for me, and really experienced, really knowledgeable, brilliant at advising people, on the products and whatever. But that is our go-to thing. It's like, why are you giving this product? Why do you want it? Okay, if you're giving it for, so say you're sort of saying to me, oh gosh, well, the dog's been on, course of antibiotics. We had a wee problem, had to go to the vet, antibiotics, blah, blah, blah. I would be saying, right, venison, brilliant. venison's the super heavy hitter in collagen. Let's get this gut right again. Loads of proline in that one, la-di-da-di-da. If they're saying joints, I really want to give it for joints, I'd probably be going, right, well, chicken's probably actually your best one there, even though the collagen hit looks lighter on the pack. So we will go in, if people ask us, we'll go right into it. And as you know, these are rabbit holes you can go down. But in general, if somebody's just getting broth for general good health and the dog has no sort of intolerances or anything like that, it's a bit of a free-for-all. It's just whatever you fancy.
Yeah, exactly. I focus on them just for the hydration side of it, and anything else is just a bit of a Brucey bonus to me. Like I said, but they do, like I said, they do have a functional purpose as well if needed. Obviously, it's just food. It's just a support. Do you know what I mean? It's not there to do anything magic. And I think that's a lot of things. Well, the online space is going as well. A lot of brands have been quite misleading, and the marketing saying they can do this, that, and the other, and they're skating far too close to the VMD guidelines. In fact, some of them have pole vaulted straight over it.
Yeah. Many have
Yeah,
posted over it. Poor VMD can't actually
yeah,
keep up with it, That's the
yeah. So
problem. But,
this is what I like. This is fully transparent. Stays within its lane and says, "This is what you get." There's nothing overhyped. There's nothing making
no,
false promises or anything like that. It's just transparent.
yeah. And I'm very much personally, I'm a fan of, if your dog has got an issue, I like a multimodal approach to these things. I've had many rescue dogs with many, many issues. And, I've always found I don't rely on one thing. And, we lost a 16-year-old pointer there back in February, sadly, and he was on wheels for the last year of his life, as was his partner in crime, who we'd lost the year before. And let me tell you, 2 dogs on wheels trying to take them for a walk is not fun. You need at least 2 people so that they don't tackle themselves up.
Yeah.
But anyways, I always joke and say what we didn't put on or do to that dog to support him in his later years. There was acupuncture, there was hydro when he could do it, there was a great diet, there was the appropriate supplements, there was, and there was modern medicine painkillers because he needed them. And, that's the bottom line. But we gave the broth to support the gut when he was getting those. So everything was multimodal. We did laugh at the end. And if people said, "Oh, so do you think everything works?" And I would have said, I do not know, but the combination that we're doing works, and I'm terrified to remove anything from that combination. Just leave it as it is. He's healthy as he can be. He's in good form. He's eating well, and I do genuinely believe that. I don't think there's necessarily a one miracle magic bullet to cure everything. I do think it just takes a lot of things across feeding, looking after, exercise, maybe acupuncture, medicine if necessary. It takes a lot of stuff.
No, yeah, exactly that. Like I said, these are because they are made that well. Although, like I said, they do come from a factory that focuses on the human side of it as well. Just want to point out to people that these are for animal consumption. Don't be drinking them yourself. Although I think I'd want to, but I won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to point that out there.
Yeah, to be totally fair, folks, I suppose we should probably explain to people, because I'm constantly telling people this. Every pet product in the UK, if it has the word pet, an animal on its label, anything like that, if it is designed to be fed to pets, it has to legally have a sort of statement on it saying not for or not for human consumption, for animal consumption only, something along those lines. And that is the law. Even if you went to Harrods Food Hall and bought yourself a fillet steak and it was prepared for your dog in a commercial kitchen that had all of the certifications, la 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 la, and then you put it in a bag, you maybe dried it or did whatever you're going to do with it, and you could quite happily sell it to humans if you wanted to, because it's human standard. The minute you put it in a bag that says dog or cat in it, I'm afraid it turns to category 3, which means we need to put on a warning saying not for animal or not for human consumption, definitely for animal consumption, but not for human consumption. So even though it may be technically safe for humans, that is the warning, and we can never say, we can never put out stuff saying, whether I want to use it for my own cooking's my own business, but we cannot be saying that. And I think again, this is where a lot of people are going down. Everybody's shouting human grade, human ingredients, blah blah blah. And I think it's also worth mentioning that just because something has human ingredients in it, which by the way, most pet food, it is human grade ingredients, if not all, but just because something says human grade ingredients, if it's produced in a non-human grade factory, it's not human grade anymore. Do you know? And I think that's a thing that a lot of people play on in their marketing, as if, oh, you could take this yourself. Well, but it's not packed or produced in a human grade factory. So you can have all the human ingredients that you like, but it's not. But regardless, everything with a pet label on it has to be labeled not for human consumption in the UK. And we sometimes get pushback going, oh, you say your product's so good, but it says not for human consumption, so it can't be. It's just the law. It's just because it's converted immediately to category 3 once it passes into pet. So it's one of these things that I find it super interesting, actually, all of these things and labels and production, how things actually work, and where people are pulling the wool over your eyes, or not pulling the wool over your eyes and having to explain themselves because it maybe is sort of questionable. So yeah, it's an interesting topic, but yes, absolutely. Everything in the UK that has a pet label has to be labeled not for human consumption.
Yeah, exactly. And it has no bearings on quality of the actual product itself at all.
No, no.
Um, so where are you going from here? 'Cause obviously I've seen your journey so far, but what's your next steps for the future? Like, where are you going?
So we have we are about to launch a couple of products into trade, a couple of different sizes of some of our products. We have gone into Europe this year, so we have distributors in the Nordic regions and in Europe, and we are working on increasing those distributors. So that's all really good. We're doing very well there. Which is lovely. And we have launched in the United States as well. As I mentioned earlier, we were in Global Pet Expo back in March there in Orlando, which is lovely. We are off to Super Zoo in Las Vegas in August, and we will continue expanding our range throughout the States. We are just about to get our first shipment of bone broth out there. We're on Chewy out in America, which is the big giant pet platform, which has been really exciting. And yeah, we have some new releases, brand new products coming early next year. We've got a cat range now as well, which is lovely and has been doing well, because cats have been largely ignored, I think, to date. But cat is a growing category, so we've got some cat products coming. And also, just on a side note, we are also working with a couple of other brands, so we will be bringing in products from a couple of other really lovely brands that we work with, one of which is Dr. Katie Kangus's brand, which is called Dr. Katie's Remedies. It's a homeopathic brand. And Katie is an absolute superstar. She is an integrative vet working out of San Diego. So all exciting stuff. She is just a fantastic person with a fantastic range of products. And we also have a range which we are bringing, that we're going to work with in the UK, called Totonics, which is a really exciting range, which is based around blood products, venison blood and dried venison blood. And it's a whole other topic. So we've got lots of new things happening, both with our own range, both with what we're doing with some other people. Yep, absolutely. We've got to say a couple of really nice new releases coming next year, which I'm excited about, but I can't say anything about at the moment. We're keeping those ones under our hat. But yeah, we've got lots and lots happening. We are certainly not standing still. We are moving. We are pushing forward, and it's very exciting times. So, yeah.
So interesting what you said about the venison blood there. I just want to clear that up for people. So by that, I presume you mean the actual blood that's been drained and not just the myoglobin liquid after the meats have been
No,
defrosted, that most people think's
no,
blood.
and that's it. Most people think that's blood. There is no blood in any of the meat that you will feed your dog. It has all been drained. This is a super exciting product called Totonics. I think they've been on a few podcasts in the UK already, but they will be with us in August. It is actually dried venison blood, not myoglobin, full venison blood. And if you think about it this way, deer, they grow and drop their antlers once a year, if not I think it's maybe even slightly less. And this product is from New Zealand, which, as you know, is so incredibly clean. Everything that comes out of that country's pretty good. The founder basically realized that New Zealand has a lot of two things. It has a lot of sheep and it has a lot of deer. So venison and lamb are big things there. And the venison, the blood is just literally getting washed down the drain. And, blood is life, and it contains everything that we need. But yet it is not utilized as a product. So basically, in a nutshell, there are peptides in venison blood and this particular type of deer that are absolutely phenomenal for recovery. So for sport dogs, things like that. And again, this is a hydration product, Mike. So it comes in a powdered form, but you would rehydrate it. And again, fantastic for everybody through from hardcore raw feeders right through to kibble feeders. You're almost making it raw for them. You're adding something that's nearly raw, genuinely, because you see all of these things freeze dried raw or raw kibble or kibble and raw, whatever, which is great. But this is so nutritious. It is one of the most nutritious things because it's what's in the blood grows the antlers and the velvet on the antlers. So you can imagine how good that stuff is. And as I say, the four varieties of it with other nice things added, such as New Zealand green lip mussel, things like that. But a really fantastic product, super, super interesting product. So we'll be doing a lot of promoting of that as well when it comes into us, and it will sit alongside our range very nicely. But yeah, it's a lovely product. And although blood might give people the ick a little bit, I think once you explain to them and you just say, that blood is life, this is where all of the really, this is what drives the body. This is where all of the good stuff is, it makes sense. And also, dogs go nuts for it. It's absolutely the most palatable thing you can put in front of them. So yeah, so lots of exciting things happening for us. And as I say, you'll see these other Dr. Katie's products, which are little bottles like this. They are already with us, and Totonics should be with us in August. And yes, watch out for our own launches ourselves next year.
Well, that's going to be brilliant. And when that, like I said, I'm really excited about that, the blood one specifically.
Yep.
So when that is a position, get yourself back on here and advertise as best you can, because
Mike,
I'm
I'll
going to be
try
all
and
over that, because
we have people literally lined up ready to bite our arm off for this product, and I will try and do one better and get Jeff, who is the founder, for you, because he is a very, very interesting gentleman indeed, and a fantastic person. And again, both of these ranges that we work with and we're going to be working closely with are so transparent, so honest, so genuinely out for the good and health of the animals, as well as are we, that we just feel it's a great match, and exciting times to come.
Oh, definitely. And I cannot wait to hear more.
Good.
Right, well, I'm not gonna take up any more of your time. What we've discussed so far has been absolutely epic and beneficial for people that want to know more about bone broth, but they're not too sure much about it or which ones to pick and things like that. And you've highlighted the fact that there is some shady products on the market without being without being specific at all, because there is. But you've also
There's
give people
also,
a better option.
can I just say, there's also some cracking products on the market. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, there is. Yeah, yeah, of course.
Cracking
Yeah,
products on the
yeah,
market, you know, who we would be very much in support of too. You know, there's it's one of these things, the rising tide lifts all ships. And if you've got a good quality product and you're marketing fairly to people and transparently to people, brilliant.
exactly. But there's nothing wrong with blowing your own trumpet either.
No, there's nothing wrong with blowing your own trumpet either. Ours is best.
Exactly. Just
Yeah, that's
celebrate
it.
what you've done, because it's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. But yeah, like I said, I hope we get back on in the future. But yeah, thank you for coming on today, and
Thank you so much
yeah,
for inviting
thank
me
you
on.
for that.
Absolutely a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. And keep up the good work.
Oh, I will do.
Good.
Cheers. I'll see you later.
Bye, Mike.
Bye bye.